Okay, I thought I'd share a little sign plate tricks with you. I make what I call a cheat block. Now, on commonly used angles, this is set up for 45 degrees on a 5-inch sign roll, 5-inch roll to roll. Now, this block, if you've ever made a gauge stack for 45 degrees at 5-inch, it's a big, ugly, conglomerated mess, and it's a huge stack. I make this block. Let's go to our gauge blocks real quick. I make this block so it is 100, right here, 100 thousandths and 5/10 short, which puts me right in the middle of this range from here to here. So if I add 100 thousandths with 5/10 on it, this little block right here, I get 45 degrees. Okay, so that's the setup for this one gauge block, no big deal. Now, if I take this over to the surface plate and I measure my part and I'm off a little bit, I'm right here in the middle. I can run this way and I can run this way with the gauge stacks, and I can make adjustments on the fly. It's all cause and effect, action and reaction. And the thing is it really pays to have two sets of gauge blocks. If you're taking the same set of gauge blocks back and forth between the work and the surface plate, you know what? If you made an error, you're taking your error right with you. Let's get our parts ground, and then we'll go over to the comparator stand and look at a completely different setup. We don't use any of these blocks here. These pretty much stay a working set, and then the other nicer set stays with the actual measuring. So cheat block, plus, minus, right? Okay, so we're done with our parts. We got our parts in there. We just finished grinding them. And we've got our cheat block in here and our single gauge block. And what we've got here is a couple of springs. You could probably use rubber bands too. I'm not a fan of the strap clamps that go on the side. They're kind of a hook strap clamp. When you tighten them up, they always deflect the plate. They're measurable. And this Suburban plate, sign plate, has a measurable spring back. And this, we fight back with springs to fight the spring back. So you can actually measure your sign plate and collapse it all the way. Let it come down on to rest, and put a gauge on it, and then just release your hand off of it and see if it springs back a tenth or two, but it's measurable. If you got a really loosey-goosey sign plate, I don't see it doing it, but this one sure does, and actually this one down here does too. This one's got a measurable spring back on this big 10-inch sign plate I got here. So definitely use springs, rubber bands, something like that. I'm not a fan of the bolts. You can over tighten and deflect the plate. Maybe horseshoe it or something, but that's our setup here. Let's go get these out of this fixture and go over to the comparator stand, and we'll measure with a completely different set of gauge blocks. Okay, so we got our gauge blocks out here, and we're going to clean them right here on this towel. But I was going to show you the math real quick and how we did it. We calculated 45 degrees at 4-inch. We got our 4-inch sign rolls on our for our actual, measuring. So over on the surface grinder, we're using a 5-inch sign roll. Here we have 4-inch. All right, so we came out to 2.8284. I only took it out to 4 decimal places, and then you'll see I did some math here, and I'm working backwards. So I deducted 100 thousandths with 4/10, and then that left me with this number, 2.7280. And then our next one is 108 thousandths. So we're moving on to this decimal place here. And then that zeroed us out here. So now we got 0 and 0. Now the next one we got to work on, we got 2, that leaves us with 2.62. So we grab 120 thousandths gauge block, and we canceled out this 2. Bring us down. We're at 2.5. We grab a 1/2-inch block. There's 500. Then we grab a 2-inch block. And then that zeroes us out. So that's how you build your gauge block stack. You work backwards. Start with the farthest decimal place over, work on that, and get that canceled out, and the next, and the next, and the next, and just keep building your stack as you go. So that's how you build a gauge block stack. And all those minuses over there equal my 2 and my half, and 100 thousandths with 4 tenths. There's, wow, it's not going to focus on that. There's 120 thousandths. And then there's your 108 thousandths. Okay, so that's my whole stack. I need to get these clean, rung together, and get them set up on a little sign bar. Pretty cool. If you haven't checked Steve out over at Solid Rock Machine Shop, go check him out. This has got a base plate. It's not just a sign bar. It's like a little miniature sign plate. So it does have a base. And what's cool about it is the end is kind of forked right there where it comes apart and splits. And you put your gauge block stack in there, and it'll kind of traps it in there. But this is a 4-inch roll-to-roll sign bar. And go check out his channel, The Solid Rock Machine. Does a beautiful job on these things. He gives you 1032 tap holes on the top. I just got a little angle there for me to bump into and place to come to rest. But you can bolt all kinds of stuff to the top of it. Gently. Don't torque them down. Anything you do is going to deflect the bar. But let's get this gauge stack plugged into here and go measure. Okay, so here's the gauge stack, and as you see, these are ceramic, so there's no way they could be magnetic. But these things are stuck. Make sure you wipe them down on a towel and get them clean. And when you install them together, scissor them together. Push firmly and scissor them together, and that'll wipe away any airborne dust or anything that wants to get in between there. But that's how you make sure you got a good clean stack, is they're all rung together. All right, I'm going to show you what I'm going to use. Here I've got my sign bar set up. I've got my gauge stack built in there. Everything's clean. I'm using a couple of Tom's Inspiration Metalworks magnets to hold my little thin parts on there. Got a little backstop here bolted on, so my parts have a place to come to rest, and so they're both equal. And what I'm going to use to kind of aid me is just a ruler or a scale. And we're going to lay that down there and kind of use that as a sled. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my gauge out of the way here. And we're going to slide in, get under our target, and get down here on 0. Okay, happy? And now all I have to do is hold my scale down. I've got it bumped into the column over here, so we're going to use that as a guide because we want to, kind of traverse across that part nice and straight. So here we go. All right, and then we can pull it back. All right. So that's a pretty easy way to do thin parts. And you know what else? That instilled a bunch of confidence. And I'll tell you why. This is not the sign bar we used over on the machine. This is not the gauge block stack we used over on the machine. Completely different setup. We're getting good repeatable results. So we proved it to ourselves that we did a good setup on the machine and that we brought everything back. And the only thing that remained a constant between the two operations are the actual parts. All the setup, completely different. All right, so that's my take and a couple of tips on sign bars and sign plates. Thanks for watching.